fierce challenge of Mount Marathon brings athletes of all ages together in the wilds of Alaska in pursuit of a single quest, finding the finish line. The adults will climb and then descend 3,000 vertical feet in less than a mile, at times facing grades above 60%. These brave souls aren't just racing for prize money. There isn't any. They run for pride, displayed as scrapes and bruises. And they run for bragging rights and the privilege to say they finish a race only a few hundred people a year get to attempt. Live from Seward, Alaska, it's the Men's Mount Marathon Race. Live on KTVA, GCI Channel 907, and KTVA.com.
And again, good morning. Look at that great shot. Mount Marathon 2018, the 91st running of this glorious race on a wonderful July 4th. This is the Chamber of Commerce weather that we always order. Our technical crew orders it as well, too. Not too hot, at least not yet, for race number 2. The juniors are already in with a pair of worthy winners, first-timers, and you can see the gentlemen ready to go. A little testosterone flowing there, ready to run and take that hill. The ladies will go at 2 o'clock. We've been saying for the better part of a few weeks now, Clint, that if you're looking for a favorite, if you're trying to handicap this thing, David Norris is the guy. But there are a handful of guys that could come back up and jump in there. Enough big names that if David doesn't have his best day, and it's hard to imagine that, he always seems to have it, that somebody else could come in and take the crown.
Yeah, absolutely. David, I'd say actually this is one of the most stacked fields we've seen in, I'd say a good 5 or 6 years. Our top 10, the top 10 range you're going to see today is going to be tighter than we've seen in several years. David Norris is the favorite coming in just because of his performance earlier this season in some races. Notably, just a couple weeks ago at Berg Ridge, he ran completely alone, broke his own record by an amazing margin, and did it without even being pushed by anyone. But beyond David Norris, we've got a couple of out-of-staters, Ricky Yates and Max King, that are longtime professional runners with amazing resumes. These people travel around the world doing races like this, and they've built themselves a name, and they are professionals. But beyond the outsiders, we've got 3 or 4 Alaskans that truly, if they pop off a great day, if they handle the heat well, could all of a sudden find themselves in the lead. And it's going to be I anticipate it's going to be a tighter field than what we've seen in the last few years.
You see a few of these guys already drinking, taking some fluids, but not a whole lot. Holly mentioned it. She says you don't want to get that swell belly and feel like you're dragging a bag of water along with you here. You want to have just enough, but make sure that you have enough in the tank.
Yeah, we're looking at some of the front runners there. We just panned across Lars Arneson, and that's Jim Shine there. He's going to be a top 10 contender. We went past Max King. We'll definitely be taking a look at him, and Eric Johnson right there with the number 2 bib. Ricky Gates is kneeling down there trying to stretch out a little bit, and Jacob Kirk there to the left is also quite fast. There's Luke Yeager, the former junior 3-time champion, and he's going to be one to watch early in the race. He's got youth and he's got speed. The question is, does he have strength?
And again, the front runners, just like in any marathon that you might watch, if this is your first time with us today, thank you for joining us. And if it's not, glad to have you back again. The front runners go to the front. It's an understood thing, essentially, too. You let the contenders go up there, do their thing, race for it, and then the secondary folks right behind them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's race etiquette. You know, across that front line right there, you're seeing the contending 15 to 20 guys, and it is etiquette to let them go to the front because no one wants to get your heel caught at the, just accidentally tripped up at the beginning of a race. That would be horrible.
And I can't remember in all the years of covering this when we've had that kind of an issue. It goes off smoothly, and the right guy, the right lady, whoever it is, usually wins this thing.
Yeah, but today again, this particular race, this field is stacked. And I anticipate a very tight finish, a much tighter range than what we've seen. It's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
And it's interesting too because we are missing a number of big names. If you've watched us over the years, Eric Strabel and Killian Jornet, of course. So a couple of real heavy hitters who aren't here, and yet there always seems to be somebody, and there's no shortage today of real power hitters. Ricky Gates is an interesting guy there. He's always been, as we said, that second place. The timing has never been there for him, and who knows, maybe today is that day for him to finally get that trophy. You know he wants to have it, but ever the gentleman every year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ricky's a real class act. The only question mark about Ricky makes him a dark horse this year is that he hasn't raced last year.
So as we've been telling you, we have cameras and technical folks and acumen stationed all through this mountain. Clint, let's take a tour.
Yeah. So this is a route section of the trail, and it's one of the routes to get onto the mountain. Those folks are sitting actually just on. There's Mikey County, our champion. That's the cliff, and we're off, ladies and gentlemen. You're definitely going to keep an eye on that front line. You're going to see, you know, those 10, 15, 20 guys in the front. They're all trying to get to the mountain in a good, speedy fashion. Because the last thing in the world you want to do is get hung up behind the bottleneck. You have to remember, this isn't just a run like down a street. Once they get to the mountain, all of those runners are going to get funneled into a trail that in places is only about 3 feet wide.
You really got a series of races within this race.
So this is fascinating right away from the beginning. That's Max King in the red. We're definitely going to keep an eye on him. And that's David Norris in the black. Now, Max is going off at a really fast pace. They're already beginning to gap the rest of the field. What you have to keep in mind about Max is this guy went to the U.S. Olympics for the marathon, and he's run, I believe, right about a 4-minute mile. He has amazing speed, and he knows who Norris is. He knows what Norris can do, and he's going to try to push the pace to the mountain because he wants to throw Norris out of his rhythm. And there's Fred Moore,
another legend.
Absolutely. Again, with this aerial footage, which is just amazing with the drones, you can see Max and David. David doesn't want to go out this fast, but he doesn't want to let Max set the tempo either. And Max is trying to push David out of his comfort zone. Look at the gap that those two are putting on. Ladies and gentlemen, that pack that's behind them, every one of those guys can run about a 4:45, 4:50 mile. And you see what's happening with Max and David. Max is doing this on purpose. This is not by accident. Those two are already messing with one another in terms of what they're doing. But that second pack, you got to remember how fast those guys are. 4:45 milers, and they're already getting gapped.
Now, is it a pace they're going to be able to keep going, keep up?
Well, in my opinion, no. This is a game of chess right now.
Okay.
Cat and mouse. Max is trying to get into Norris's head, and Norris is saying, I'm not going to let you go.
All right, so maybe it's that second group then that pack says, you know what? Let those guys go out there, blow the engine out a little bit, and then perhaps I can come in there.
Absolutely. You know, we'll see if they can maintain this. You know, I'm hoping Norris isn't making a mistake by trying to hang with Max King on this section, because Max, again, is doing this on purpose. And if he can throw Norris out of his rhythm and get Norris to go anaerobic too early, that could spell trouble. Norris's strength is once he get on the mountain. That's where I think he's got the advantage over Max King.
Right, but this first couple of minutes here stretch. So again, sections, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and one little minute or two here could really turn this thing.
Oh, hugely. So in this race, you have to keep in mind that this isn't your normal race. This race, you got a half a mile in the beginning, and you got to run fast. Those guys are running, easily 7.5-minute mile pace. Ooh, David just pulled ahead of Max a little bit. That's pure, right now, that's just showmanship. He's saying, I'm going to do, if you can do it, I'm going to do it too. And here they are. They're both going to take the same route. They're going to go up the cliff. They're both looking, perfectly strong and within themselves. I just hope Norris, he need that move because he knows his strength is on the mountain, and he'd rather not be behind Max. Max King said, you know what, I'm going to try to see if I can get you anaerobic before we get to the mountain, because I would like to get you blown up just a little bit.
Okay, one wearing glasses, one not. Any significance there, personal preference?
That's just personal preference. Norris, as a skier, they wear glasses all the time.
Sure.
Yeah, because they're moving at a pretty, good pace. And then they just, in the sun, off of the snow and that sort of thing. Max is not a skier. He's a runner. So the fact that Norris is wearing glasses and Max isn't, that's just personal preference.
Something else, and it's something I will credit you, my friend, with teaching me on the first one. Some like to just charge up. Some like to use the hands on the legs and push themselves up, and it's a great way to get up that cliff.
Yeah, absolutely. There's more technique to this mountain than racing than most people think. There's Barney Griffith, the ageless wonder, and you'll find people with different techniques. When we watch these guys later, you're going to see Norris and Max are both going to be in a more upright position, and they're going to run sections of the trail that a lot of other people can't. And the reason they're doing that is because of the way they train. Norris is a cross-country skier. They're used to diagonal striding, which is a forward running-like motion, taking a long stride, and he's working it right now. And so that's a style. But you're going to see other people that will have a more of a power hiking, a technique that I always used. And I don't come from a skiing background. I come from a hiking background. So it's a different technique.
And our extraordinary footage from our men and women on the mountain, and our salute to them.
Yeah, that cameraman just went anaerobic chasing David for 100 feet. And there goes Max King following him. But David is already putting a little gap on Max.
Okay.
He's putting a little hurt.
And here you said, here comes the bottleneck in the jam that you have to avoid if you're going to win this thing.
Yeah, look at how backed up these people get. I mean, and that trail there, ladies and gentlemen, is only about 3 feet wide. There's Lars Arneson making his way. This is, second wave is just leaving the starting line, working their way up the street.
So it was a 5-minute differential, so top of the hour, and then a 5 minutes at the after the hour. Again, to separate this thing out and let those contenders go. They are long gone at this point. But another visit back to the roots we go, and here's where it's here's where the rubber is starting to meet the road or the dirt.
Absolutely, we got Matthias Sari there, 10-time top 10 finisher, and he's trying to keep his feet moving and keep a good pace. But you'll see everybody swarming around on the cliff because of the bottleneck. You're willing to take a different route, trying to get around people. Hopefully they do it safely. This is the most dangerous part of the mountain for kicking loose a rock that might come down and hit somebody else. But most of the guys are very experienced and they know what they're doing, and they're trying not to do anything that's going to be a danger to anybody else on the field.
Nice to see too some of our competitors here getting the water from folks. The guy giving a squirt to everyone.
Jerry Ross is taking a shower up there.
Well, Jerry's had a few showers over in Boston. It seems like every other time he's running this thing, he's getting poured on. So why not back at home here too?
Yeah, he had a little bit of a tough day in Boston. There again, Barney Griffith, the guy is going for the 60 age group record, which is remarkable since he also holds the 50 age group record. Nobody's ever been able to beat his 50, and now he's going to break the 60.
And we see a split off too here in the bottom left of the screen, and then of course to the center too. As Holly said, lots of different ways to go up this thing.
Yeah, one of the unique aspects of Mount Marathon that it makes it unusual for many other races, even mountain races. Many of them have an established trail, and the rules are you can't get off the established trail. Mount Marathon is unique. The only rule is you start at the the start line. You go to the top of this mountain, you go around a rock, you make it back down, and you finish down across from the Yukon Bar, where this place started. But how you get there is entirely up to you. So this is where the experience on the mountain, having spent dozens and dozens of times going up and down the mountain, trying to find the best trails, the best footing, and then using that to your advantage.
Great shots from the air, great shots from the ground as our coverage with Mount Marathon continues, along with Clint McCool. I'm Dave Goldman. Happy to have you with us today on this wonderful July 4th, the 91st running of this Alaskan tradition. And nice that we have a solid weather day. It seems like it's eased up too, clouding over a little bit more. We had bright, strong sunshine for the juniors race, and it's eased off a little bit.
Yeah, the haze is making it a little nicer. I mean, especially when you consider the forecast today, as of just like 48 hours ago, was for sunny and like 78.
Yeah.
I think it's probably about 70 out right now. So the guys are actually getting a little bit of a reprieve from what the anticipated heat was. So they're going up just now past what's called Singing Tree. And at that point, they're about, the leaders probably went through there at about 9 minutes.
So we'll be keeping an eye again on David Norris, Max King, both of them shooting right out in the front and setting what was a torrid pace We'll see if they can continue.
Here's another remarkable thing about Mount Marathon. Yes, it's a tremendous competitive event, but that's Chad Rosari. He's in his 70s, and he's been doing this thing for 30-some years. And compared to your average 70-year-old, he comes out here, he's going to go up a 3,000-foot mountain, descend it in a very reasonable amount of time, and he's just chugging away. He's just a, never say die kind of guy.
Well, to put it into some more real-world context, folks, if you decide to take the stairs in a building and eschew the elevator, at the top of those stairs you say, I've had it. Well, this is a big staircase that just keeps going.
There we have Brian Birdman Stoker in his usual regalia. We get all types here.
Cheers. Got a little extra artwork this year too. Some writing, some communication. He's got the whole deal going.
Yeah, sometimes we think he's a moving billboard at times.
Hey, if he's smart next year, he rents himself out.
Exactly. Yeah. So the second wave guys are now hitting the mountain, and they're working just as hard. They may not have been quite as fast off the starting line, but they're working just as hard.
And more guys wearing shirts now too.
Yeah, you'll find that. I mean, these guys are moving a little slower, and among the faster, more competitive guys, you don't want to wear a shirt. Shirt just gets sweaty. It, believe it or not, it weighs you down. And on a day like this, you don't need to be wearing a shirt.
Well, especially too, if you do go by and someone gives you a water shower and a cool down, you're not going to be able to lose that as quickly.
You're going to carry that 3 pounds of water around with you for the rest of the mountain.
Different styles here going up too. Some more upright, and I know you say that you want to get low if you can.
Yeah, at this point, these guys are already starting to hit their, threshold where they're settling into a pace. These are the guys that are. There's Roger Kemple, another 75-year-old gentleman, I believe, and they're getting into a pace where they can settle in and still get under the 3-hour cutoff time limit.
This is one of the oldest races going, but there are older races. There are 12 actually older than Mount Marathon. 1915 the first time. So it's among, as we like to say, the oldest foot races. But folks think it is the oldest mountain race. Oldest road race actually comes from Delaware, the YMCA Turkey Trot, the 8K. But this is a one-of-a-kind, but why not? Alaska's a one-of-a-kind itself, too. And you get folks from coming all over the country. Just past a young man who ran in the juniors race, came all the way out from Catonsville, Maryland. And was one of the last to finish in the juniors and got quite a rousing ovation. It's a good time for us to also tip our cap to the folks who support everyone here on the side. And the folks up here as well, the applause. And it means something. It matters, too. When you talk to even the top competitors, they hear it.
Oh, absolutely. The audience support here is amazing. Next to the Iditarod, this is the single biggest sporting event in Alaska. And as far as in terms of a single grouping of people, I believe it is the biggest one-day event in the state of Alaska. In a good year, we'll have 30,000 spectators come down to watch this event in Seward. And it's pretty remarkable. Their support is incredibly important to the racers, and everybody loves a little encouragement when you're starting to hurt.
All right, so let's take our first break there as we continue to work up the mountain. At some point, they're coming down, and they'll come quickly. Our continuing coverage of Mount Marathon 2018. Back in just a moment. And back in the roots we are for Mount Marathon as the men underway, trying to make their way up the cliff and then down to finish another Mount Marathon. You can see some of the fans and some of the volunteers making sure these gentlemen stay nice and cool. These guys look pretty good going up.
Now there's Bill Spencer coming up behind, the former record holder, an 8-time winner. Now he's just doing it to inspire others to do the same and to be a model for his kids that are in the race.
And where else would he be on July 4th?
I don't think there's any place he'd rather be.
Okay, go.
Bill Spencer holds a distinction having tied a race. Sam Young back in 1986, it finished right there. And then Ann ended up doing the same thing at Three Peaks in Dunedin, New Zealand last year.
Yeah.
Runs in the family.
It definitely runs in the family. We actually saw that earlier today with our women's junior winner, Kendall Kramer. She comes from an distinguished running family up in Fairbanks. You'll see the Copsacks today. They're a family with 3 generations in this race.
Not too many folks with the long sleeves. One of the first I think I've seen today.
That's a little on the unusual side. It looks hot to me.
I'd say. And another.
With a dark long sleeve, that's going to be really hot.
Well, however you get up and down, who's to say?
Absolutely.
So at some point we'll keep an eye, and David Norris, Max King, in some order. Norris, King, King, Norris. We assume it's going to be those two unless someone has made a major move to catch up to those two.
Yeah, we will actually be getting them popping out of the trees just about any time. And we'll be able to see the footage of them, hopefully from our midway camera or from our drone, because they should be breaking out if they haven't already.
So if you're joining us today, we've already got a pair of junior winners. The ladies' race will go at 2 o'clock here at the men's race. They rotate, and this year the men are the 11 and the women are 2, and next year the men will finish it off in what is called prime time, if you will, at least prime time for the Mount Marathon. To mention, we had a couple of junior winners earlier this morning, 2 impressive champions too. I know you like the look of the junior boy coming in. Mikey looked awfully strong.
Absolutely. Mikey Connolly has just made a quantum leap in his abilities this last year, and he's just had an amazing season, finishing top 10 in every adult race we've had so far this year.
All right, let's hear from Mikey after the race.
Watching running videos, watching Gillian Jornet. Gillian Jornet is a big a person I look up to a lot, and him being here about 3 or 4 years ago, really, I don't know, I saw him run, and David Norris himself, I mean, I look up to those kind of guys, and I've always wanted to kind of win this race. I've always envisioned it in my head coming off the mountain, and today it was a dream come true. And this morning, for the last 4 weeks, I've been envisioning this, and it's finally come true.
All right, so a pair of junior winners. Also had a young lady also coming through as well today. So a pair of junior winners I think that we are going to see for a long time to come. And now Clint's eye is just waiting to see that that vision come over that cliff. And here we go.
Yeah, the field is tight as I anticipated. I believe that's Norris out in front. And it looks to me as that's Max King still falling in the second place. But the second pack group is right on their heels. And in fact, I'd say they probably reeled them in just a little bit.
Well, you said they looked like they had to expend a lot of energy to leave the field out on the flat on the road. And as they've headed up the hill, that group of 4 or 5 trying to nudge their way to it and keep it just close enough so that when they head for that downhill, they're within striking distance.
Yeah, absolutely. You can be assured that this is in the head of every one of those guys. They're looking over their shoulder. They're trying to gauge where everybody's at, more than just distance. You know, we also want to assess what the guy behind me is feeling, what the guy in front of me is feeling. If the guy in front of me starts to falter, and I can sense that maybe it's time to make a move, then that will really motivate you to get moving. Same thing by looking behind you and asking yourself, you know, am I maintaining my gap? There's Max King, the professional runner from Bend, Oregon, coming around and looking strong.
Max King, a Cornell graduate from 2002, was an All-American, and as you've said, Clint, he is a guy who has been around the globe. He's been in competitions before. This guy knows how to close the deal, too.
Yeah, Max King is arguably the most versatile mountain cross-country runner I've ever come across. Again, he went to the Olympic trials in, I believe, 2012. And since then has made a long career of professional running around the world with an impressive array. He's won 100-mile races. He's won vertical K races. He's still ranked in the top in the world. And now he's trying to navigate Mount Marathon.
Yeah, he's 38 years old.
I spoke with him earlier this year. I actually did a run with him. And I asked him, he had just come from down here, and I asked him what he thought of the mountain. He said, intimidating.
Intimidating, okay.
He said he had never raced anything this steep, and he had never come down anything this fast.
That's the thing, that this mountain has a way of humbling even the finest athletes, and you are seeing some of the finest athletes in the globe today, folks. May not appear that way, but you're seeing some of the best the land has to offer.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard at home to realize just how steep that is. Those guys are going up something that in places pushes 60 degrees in angle and averages about 35 degrees in angle. It is steep, and the guys are feeling the heat. David Norris, our leader right there, he's not, getting up. I hate to say it, but you can see the coming out of his mouth there because it's hot and he's pushed hard, and he's struggling a little bit right now. You can see it in the way he's moving. Not quite as light on his feet as we saw him a couple of years ago.
And this is a world-class athlete we're watching right now.
Oh, there's no doubt. Norris could literally make a very, very good living doing nothing but racing around the world. He is one of the best in the world at this kind of event.
And he is working hard. In fact, in watching David Norris, I can't remember a time watching David Norris work this hard on the mountain.
He is. 2 years ago when he set the record, he ran all by himself, had a couple of minute gap, and was running real easy. I think, as we mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast, that push that they put on in the very beginning might be starting to catch up with them. Those guys went out hot and heavy. They were trying to break each other, and it might come into play here a little later if they burned up too much juice.
Right, because you say this is his strength right now, is going up and separating. The downhill, he's good. Solid, of course, everywhere, and then on the flat, but not the strength that this is.
Yeah, absolutely. His strength is going uphill, and that was his race strategy from the beginning. And it's working. He is leading, but I'm not sure that he's gapping Max King. Max King seems to be moving pretty strongly right through there. I'm not sure. I might even say he's moving a little more smoothly than David is.
Well, Max King, look at the runner's legs he's got going there, pumping.
I met him the other day for our run. He got out of the car, and me and several of the other runners looked at him and went, those are some legs.
They are. And Max King giving David Norris a run here. You wondered, and this is going to be a very interesting downhill. Now, we always then look for the next group and how close do they need to be, how much fun once they hit that top of the hill, as we're seeing some different pictures that we haven't seen before in our broadcast, which is great to see, giving fans different bird's eye views of how this race is unfolding.
Yeah, the rest, the second pack, they've strung out just a little bit. I can see Eric King in there. I can see Lars Arneson in there. That's Adam Jensen in the lead right there, followed by Matt Shyrock. Both those guys race and train together a great deal, and they're pushing each other right now. And the thing is that we have to keep in mind, they've all got strong downhills, but when I was watching David move, he looked like he was struggling a little bit. And it may be that those two front runners burned themselves up a bit. And when you burn yourself out, you come around, you think, oh, well, it's just downhill for 10 minutes. What's the big deal? Well, if you've gotten yourself shaky, if you've burned yourself out too much, you can come off the top of that mountain wobbly, without confidence, and it takes a while to get it back.
Noticing, too, that every person that is offered water or liquids taking it.
Yeah. No, they're feeling the heat up there. I was talking with some people who said there was almost no breeze. And though it's not historically a terribly hot year, those people are feeling every one of those bursts of sunshine.
And in years past, sometimes they will eschew the water. No thanks very much. I remember one year where we had 3 in a row and they passed the water bottle back to one another. But this is a year where you want to make sure you hydrate. It was important at the beginning of the race. We saw a few taking some of that water at the finish at the start line.
Yep.
As they were getting set, and everyone's taking it. Now here's another group of 5.
So you got Ricky Gates there in the front of that pack, and that's Eric Johnson and Matt Novakovic right behind him. Jim Shine just back behind. I believe that might be Kenny Brewer sandwiched in between them. Those guys are all top 10 finishers typically, but they are a good minute back from Norris and King. They got Ben Marvin coming in there, 9th place from last year. You can tell by the bib. Also a strong runner. Okay, and then we got Norris here. He's approaching the top. and just a couple more minutes. And
how do you like Max King's downhill?
well, that's a question mark. That's something we don't really know. The fact that Max is staying this close, though, this could be a very interesting race. Flat out road speed, Max probably has the advantage.
Okay.
Again, with his Olympic marathon experience. And once again, when we were talking about Norris, his strategy was break him on the uphill, have a reasonable margin. He doesn't really want to take a risk of hurting himself, but I can tell you that Norris is a true competitor. Mm-hmm. If he has to push, he will push.
This is going to be a gut one out kind of a day for David Norris because he hasn't been able to lose Max King. King, I think at this point, you've got to say his strategy has worked just to hang in there and give himself a chance.
Absolutely. I think he did that in the very beginning. He wanted to push Norris, try to get him out of his comfort zone. I think he did. And now that's not a very big gap between Norris and Max King right now. Not like what we're used to seeing. You can see the gap to the next group. That's more what we've been used to seeing with some of these guys. But Max is going to keep it real. Mm-hmm. And we have to keep in mind this is a 38-year-old man, racer, who's been racing professionally for probably 20 years around the world in college, Olympic trials, steeplechase, 100-milers. He is an incredibly versatile runner.
And when you're talking about somebody who's done it as long as he has, athletes have a tendency to go into this automatic overdrive, and they just know. They know how to finish the deal. They go to some race that they did 15 years ago. Yeah, I did it here. I did such and such here. Here's what I'm going to do. It's those little intricacies that sometimes turn it into a victory.
Yeah, I'm watching David Norris, and he has taken water from the last 3 people, and that is very unusual for you ladies and gentlemen at home. Very unusual. In a race, I might take a sip of water one time in a race. You don't want a bunch of water gurgling around in your stomach. But at this point, when you start to struggle and you're getting the dry mouth and you're breathing so hard that you can't even hear your own thoughts, you're looking for any kind of respite, a little fresh water just to kind of give you a little boost.
Right, because once you come down the hill, there is no more water. It's a straightaway.
Yeah. So Norris is, he's trying really hard. But I got to tell you, his strategy, I think, is playing out pretty well. He's hanging right there. And Norris doesn't have the gap that I think he might have been hoping for.
Yeah.
For a more relaxed downhill. You see him stumbling. That's not necessarily a good sign.
Okay.
He's swinging wide around his turns. You saw him reach down and touch with his hand. We call that dabbing. And see there again. See how wide he swung around that turn and how he looked a little wobbly.
Yeah, but wobbly if you're biking up a hill and you end up wobbling instead of that straight line.
Yeah. I mean, I got to pull for the hometown guy, but he's looking a little wobbly, not like we're used to seeing.
And keep in mind on that downhill, as Clint says, the legs get wobbly and a little rubbery, and then great shot there.
Yeah.
You got to be careful because things are dry up there. Any little slip, any little twist, that could turn things too.
That's Norris. He'll be coming over the top. That's the rim of the mountain right there. There's Luke Yeager, the younger competitor here today, and he's hanging tough.
Yeah.
I expected him to be, the middle to back part of the top 10. Youth on his side, big lungs, great training season with APU training program. But making the transition from the juniors to the seniors is not easy. There's David again. You can tell by the look on his face. He's given it all he's got, but he's much more bent over than you normally see in Norris. He's unfortunately when you drop your chest like that, it closes off your lungs and it makes it difficult to breathe.
He is really working hard.
He is. He's got a reasonable gap on Max, but not what he was hoping for.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting downhill now. And then if you're Max King, what's the strategy once you get up? If this is the distance or close to it.
Well, there's Max. Now look at the way he's moving. Look at the way he's swinging his arms. Look at his tempo. He senses that he's still got a shot at catching him. I think you can just see the determination on his face. He's staying more upright. His body position is better.
Switching styles, too. First he was going arms, then down to the legs, then back to the arms. David seems to be in that hunched over position.
Yeah,
Does that tell you anything?
That's not by choice. David's struggling. That is not his normal body position. 2 years ago when we watched him set the record here, he was running some of these sections. He was being much more upright.
And I hope that shot right there, as Clint's been saying, if that doesn't now gives you the idea of just how hard these guys are working and the distance traveled and the gradient that they are having to go up.
Yeah, you know, as a race strategist, I got to tell you, look at Max. He's making a push. He's closing the gap. David's going to have to pull this out if he's going to hold off. Max is looking strong, and now we'll see. Nobody knows anything about Max's downhill. We've never seen him under technical downhill conditions. We knew he would be physically fit and would be a hard charger, but no one's ever seen him race anything as technical as this before.
Quick water shot for David Norris, and there he goes.
Norris is he's looking a little wobbly to me. I hope he keeps it within himself, because no one wants to see a fall happen. I was showing the guy's video from being up there last night of where you wanted to enter the snow. Okay, now he's going to let himself go. He's just got to make sure he controls his speed. Oh, that was that was an impressive down and an impressive back up. For you folks at home, he's going from 0 to about 25 miles an hour, but he came out that's exactly where you want to come out. He played that perfectly.
Okay, and that's the thing now. Max King, let's see how he handles this.
King he's looking stronger. I mean, in terms of his smoothness. Now that's not to say he's going faster, but he's more smooth than Norris was.
And looks like he's enjoying the ride here. It's a temporary break. Is it a breather here, this 5 seconds, 6 seconds?
I got to tell you at home, that was so fun last night. I was up there at 11 o'clock at night, and I slid that snow a couple of times. I went back up to do it again just because it was fun. Now, Max took a different line. He got off in a different place.
A little earlier?
Yep, and I think that was a bit of a mistake on his part. Norris actually entered better, and I think he actually gapped him just a little bit there.
He's picked up some space.
Now, that being said, Max was looking really good. Now, the question is, did that little respite, that was about 25 seconds of snow time, and you're grabbing snow and you're rubbing your face, and it gives you a chance to get off your legs. And it might have given David just enough time to regain his mental composure, because when we saw them going over the top, Max looked like he was stronger. But maybe that little respite and just a chance to clear his head might get David back moving it as fast as he was.
Little jolt, little cool down. How does he look?
There he goes. Okay, I'd like to see his arms up a little more. You see how they're sort of just flopping down below him, and that's not good.
There go the glasses.
Yeah, he got rid of the glasses. Now he just took a turn. I'm not sure he wanted to do. There's a high line and there's a low line on this. I see that high line that you can see in the beginning of our camera, right there at the bottom of our screen. That's the faster way down. I think he made a mistake by not taking that.
Could it be a case where controlling himself and he just had to go that way?
Absolutely. He might have just had too much momentum. His arms, he's a little bit out of control. We'll just see if he can hold on. This is youth. This is I think David's 25, maybe 26.
Yeah.
And a cardiovascular machine. He's up against a 38-year-old seasoned, Max King has not run a few races. He's run hundreds and hundreds of races around the world. So he knows what it takes. Now, just to be fair there, Max also took the same line down. Now, Max is not familiar with the mountain.
That's the question now, the familiarity.
Yeah, and he may have missed that purely by accident. I got Adam Jensen coming down the snow now, second place finisher at Bird Ridge, also a tremendous competitor. He's looking strong. He's looking fast. I mean, there was no strain in his face. He's moving nice and smooth. Probably should be on his tush right now instead of trying to. You're faster on your tush than on your rear end. It can cause a little rash, shall we say, but it does keep you moving faster. All right, another shot of Norris. He's down now through halfway, going to what we call the bottom half of the shale. He's going to approach what we call the gut, which is a creek, here in a little while. And this is when it gets really technical. You're running down a creek bed with mossy, slimy rocks, and all you can do, and getting your shoes wet, and all you can do is try to stay upright. That's the whole key, is don't go down. but he's moving better. I think he may have recovered a little bit when he's on the snow. To see the speed of his feet, he's moving a lot better. See, his arms are coming up more than they were before.
Almost a trip there.
Almost, everybody almost trips.
Yeah.
Shale, I tell you that. I have taken more than my fair share of falls in the shale, where you either Superman, where you land right on your chest, or you do a nice little roll where you get some rash on your shoulders.
Knowing David the way you know him, is he thinking go mode now? Is he thinking hang on mode? What's the approach here with him? Knowing that he's got Max on his back.
Nice move. He just made it through. We call these the problems, ladies and gentlemen. He took a little fall there. There's 3 small little waterfalls during this creek. He's moving fast. Oh, yeah, David's having a great, he recovered some of that. Right there is what we call taking the high road, and he's moving. I mean, he's really moving.
Emily said he looked terrific on the downhill when she was up there.
Oh, he smoked the first couple of problems. We call them problems because you have to figure them out. They're little tiny waterfalls that drop about 5 or 6 feet, but each one of them is a little different, so you got to figure out how you're going to handle it.
Confidence has changed here in the last couple of minutes.
He's moving. His feet are moving much quicker. He's recovered. His arm movement is better. His balance is better. You don't see him wobbling like we saw him wobbling earlier. And he is flying through the gut. I haven't seen anybody do that gut that fast since Killian Jornet was here.
You know, he certainly looked like he was on the ropes right around the snow, and we're seeing a different runner right now.
Oh, he was. You can look at his face. All right, he's come on, get back up. Come on, David. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody can fall in the gut. If you look at that, you have no idea how rough it is. There's a creek running right down through the middle of that, and you got slimy, wet rocks, and But he took a tumble, but he got right back up, and he's flying now.
Think about that run. If you've gone on a run, folks, and you're running, and you got to stop at a stoplight, and you got to wait for traffic. You don't want to do that. He didn't do that. He took a fall on the rocks, gets right back up, and he's still in speed mode here.
Now he's slipping under the tree. Here comes. Max King is also looking smooth. He's not looking as fast as David did, though. But then again, David took a little tumble there, and that might have, shook his head up a little bit, so to speak.
David looked more aggressive on the downhill.
He did. Yeah. Max was not as aggressive as David was through there. I think David got a little scare in him. He knew that he was struggling a little bit there, and he pushed the gut. He had to take a fall for it, but it may have paid off because he definitely gapped Max King in the gut. Look at those boulders, ladies and gentlemen. That's what the runners are running over. And I want to give you a sense of the speed. From the top of that mountain to the road where David Norris is right now is a mile. And they just did it in less than 6 minutes. Going down a mountain, through a creek, over boulders, and down a cliff. And they still did it in under 6 minutes.
Well, this gives you an idea of what they're dealing with and what they're looking at here. That's nothing easy.
That's the easy part that they just showed. That was just a dirt trail.
People say that's the fun part right there.
Oh, that snow is a blast. It's really fun.
And on a day like today, it's welcome. And now, here we go.
But here comes Max.
All right.
And Max is flat out on the road. Max is probably the faster runner.
Okay.
And he's looking smooth. He's looking strong. He wasn't nearly as aggressive as David was in the gut. But that might, mean his legs are a little fresher too, coming down.
So here it comes. Here comes basically the sprint. Does David Norris have enough to get to the finish line before Max King can put it into that next gear?
Yeah. I mean, David's got a good lead, but Matt, you saw him look over his shoulder just now because he knows that he's struggling, and he knows that Max is a fast runner.
David Norris is trying to hang on for a second Mount Marathon title.
Okay, I like that. Look at the stride he just did. What you do there, it's really key. Is in a race is you have to focus on your hip flexors. You got to lift your legs up because your legs are just dead. And you've been using your calves and your quads the entire race. Now the only thing you've got left is your hip flexors to lift your leg out and stride. And that's what he's doing. His stride just lengthened dramatically in the last 75 yards.
Symbolically blasting right past the medical facility. Don't need that today. No one's going to need that going right there.
Fortunately, he has no need for that right now. All right. Well,
I think I saw a smile on the face too.
Yeah, he looked back. He saw where Max is at. He recognized. There he did it again. He recognizes that Max is probably the faster flat-out runner, but he also he's looking at the size of the gap he's got. And unless he starts cramping up or something, you see him reaching out.
Yeah.
He's giving some, mid high fives.
He's got a little smile there. I think he feels like he's got this. He knows it.
Yeah, well, you get a sense for, he knows. It's hard for me to say a split right there, but he's probably got a good 20, 25 seconds. And David's no slouch in the running department. But if you look at him, he's not running as smoothly as Max. But then again, he's got probably a 20 or 25 second gap. And so you saw him look over his shoulder again. Right here, you can't tell it, but the road almost goes a little bit uphill, and you have to really sprint. And then 50 yards later, it starts to drop, and you can see the finish line. And then you just let gravity take control, and you stride out. You'll see him try to lengthen out his stride as much as he can as soon as he starts rolling down this next hill.
This is a champion's champion performance today. He had to grit it out. He had everything. He's using everything in the tool bag today.
That was a dramatic race. I mean, you saw the strategy in play, what Max tried to do to him early. He held on to his strategy, but there was no question about that he was working hard and looking wobbly, but then he recovered on the snow.
David Norris is going to do it again for a second time in 3 years. He's going to take a Mount Marathon title, holding off a furious charge by Max King. What a race we've had today.
That was excellent. A really beautiful race. And he's going to hold on. It's not going to be a record, but it's going to be an absolutely fast time given the heat of today.
David Norris had a 41:26 as the record. No record today, but he'll be happy to take a second Mount Marathon title in 3 years. Here comes your champion for 2018, David Norris.
All right. Race well done. But Max represented extremely well for the veteran racer.
And Max King, what a job well done. The 38-year-old graduate of Cornell, a world-class champion in his own right, coming in 42 and a half.
Speaks volumes for us Alaskans. I mean, Max King has been a pro racer for well over a decade, if not 15 years. And even with that kind of a pedigree, Alaskans brought it home.
Mm-hmm. And that was a race where David Norris really had to use everything he had. So let's take a break. You're looking at the champion again, David Norris. Second time in 3 years. The competitors congratulating one another. We'll hear from them when we come back. David Norris, your 2018 Mount Marathon champion. Welcome back, everybody. 2018 Mount Marathon. We could show you finishers, but why not show this? I mean, when are you going to get to do this? This is good stuff. Clint?
Oh, yeah, that snow is so fun. I mentioned it earlier. I did it twice last night just because it was so darn fun. It actually really is a blast, especially when you just need to cool off for a little while.
There's the payoff for you, and it was more than just fun. It may have been a necessity for David Norris. Could it have been the turning point, perhaps? Well, he certainly seemed to get a little mojo back during this little snow run.
All right.
Absolutely. It was that was a turning point in the race.
All right, let's get down to Emily Carlson, who is with the winner, and we'll find out all about that snow. Emily.
Well, hey, Dave. I'm here with David Norris. 2 years ago, you're the champion. This year, still the champion, not a record time. What was the difference between 2 years ago and this year?
I think this year I pushed the early part of the race like way harder. So trying to put pressure on Max. And I think that maybe made the second half of the mountain a little slower for me. And then coming down, my legs were way more tired than 2 years ago. And I don't know if that's less mountain running or just the fact that I went so much harder to the top.
We saw you take a gnarly tumble. Your legs, did they feel like jello? How'd you feel at that point?
Yeah, my legs are they're getting stiff and wobbly and had some rocks in my shoes. So like, it just happens. I thought I was through and gonna be home free, but that last tumble kind of caught me by surprise.
But you won anyways. Not the record. Are you going to come back and defend your title and go for the record again? Because I know you really wanted that record today.
Yeah. I pushed the road not knowing if I was in record time and also having Max behind me. But yeah, I'd love to mainly keep getting my own uphill record because that's kind of the most important to me, and then just survive the downhill.
All right, congratulations, David Norris. Norris, 2018 Mount Marathon champion. Dave, back to you.
Emily, thank you. Go ahead, Clint McCool. You can tell us I told you so. I mean, it was what, about 14 seconds in, you said, you better watch out, he's going to blow a gasket here.
Yeah,
and
well,
he just hung on.
You know, it was great. That was a great race to watch strategically. Max King made a very veteran move, and he decided right from the beginning to use his road speed to try to push David a little more out of his comfort zone, and it worked.
Figuring that's what he had to do. Had to do something. I'm not going to beat a 26-year-old here in his own backyard. All right, let's hear from Max King and see if that was the exact strategy. Back to Emily Carlson with Max King.
Yeah, Max King, your first time here at Mount Marathon. What was it like compared to your expectations?
Oh my gosh. I don't know what my expectations really were, other than just to have a really badass race, and it is. I mean, it is unbelievable up there. I got here, I've been intimidated and scared the entire week of this mountain, and to know like what we have to start out with on the cliffs and stuff, it's just really intimidating. But you know, coming down, going up, and coming down, like the downs, obviously, it's my favorite part, and it was awesome to be able to experience that.
What was it like being in second and seeing David, trying to chase him, and the possibility that you may not?
Yeah, you know, at the top, I thought, well, this is my chance. This is the only chance I'm going to have today is to catch him here. And going down, I just saw him keeping that same gap, and so I didn't give up, but I was trying as hard as I could on the way down to reel him in and catch him, and just couldn't do it. I mean, he's a really good downhill runner, too. And coming down on the road, I got a little bit on the road, but it just wasn't enough.
All right, we've had a lot of great mountain racers come here. It's your first time. Will you be back to Mount Marathon?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, this is awesome. I love it here. The mountains are fantastic. There's tons of things to run, tons of things to do and see. So, yeah, I'll be back.
Well, congratulations on second place. We'll see you next year. All right, Dave, back to you.
All right, great stuff, Emily. Great to hear from Max King. Boy, what an addition he is to this race. We'll step out for one more break, come back and wrap this up. David Norris for a second time in 3 years as your Mount Marathon champion. As the crowds continue to swell here in Seward, Alaska, Dave Goldman, Clint McCool, our entire Mount Marathon crew. What a race we were just treated to, Clint. David Norris picks up a second title in 3 years, and boy, did he earn that one.
Absolutely. That was an outstanding race. It was very strategic, and yet both of them, in the end, got to hold on to the plan that they had, and, you know, Norris pulled it out. Kept it here in Alaska.
The veteran Max King giving him a run for his money, and as you heard him say to Emily, he will be back. Boy, is he going to add another extra to this race, which is always such a terrific tradition. This could become a tradition. Maybe they'll have to truck some snow in next year too. This may drag a few more runners in there. We finished with the men's race, as we can see and continue to watch more of the men do it, and even take your own selfies as you're heading down. Now we've got the big question of the day, and will Ali Ostrander run? We still haven't gotten a confirmation one way or the other. At some point, we're going to have to figure it out at 2 o'clock whether we see her there at the front line or not.
One more interesting question about how the afternoon women's race will play out.
And that will certainly factor into strategy, and if Ali is in, if Ali is not in. Either way, it has been a terrific day. A couple of new junior champions, another worthy champion in the men. It's the same guy from 2 years ago. Not a record for David Norris, but it is a victory nonetheless. Boy, they're really paying the price today here.
Oh, boy. Yep, that's Craig Taylor. Looks like he gave some to the mountain today. He's bleeding from several places, including his mouth.
Well, Mother Nature gets the last word, and so does Mount Marathon. That'll give you enough to hopefully come back and see us again. 1:45 on Facebook Live, and certainly at 2 o'clock on KTVA. Looking forward to the ladies' race as well. So for the entire crew, one more time, the second of 3 times today, Clint and Emily. And our Emmy Award-winning producer and director, Shirley Young. I'm Dave Goldman. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Come back July 4th. One more race this afternoon at 1:45 on Facebook Live.